Vincent Fred Senono. So within no minute from now, once again, you're all most welcome. And definitely we are starting. We are waiting for our board chair representative who's just at the doorway, and then we shall kickstart the program officially. So ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, in your respective capacities, feel free to interact. Don't be so quiet. Can you speak to your neighbor? Find out how they slept. Please. You see, I'm seeing all of you are very quiet and attentive, which is also good. But since we are still to start officially, please, let's say we can listen to your voices until when we shall open the plenary officially, and then you will have the opportunity to speak again. For now, interact, find out how your neighbor slept, so that we can keep the warmth in the room. So, as you may be aware, today we are disseminating orphans and other vulnerable children census monograph. This has been generated from the 2024 census report, and I hope that this, of course, is going to present critical findings into this area. And for the so many users who are here present, you will be able to digest these findings and make good use of them. Joining us shortly, we shall be having the representative of the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development, whose intake in this report is very important because they are among the key users of this particular data that we are releasing today. And when you talk of vulnerability, you are talking of, people who are exposed, or there is possibility of being attacked either physically or emotionally. But that is my definition. Statistically, there is a special definition which we must all be able to appreciate, which we, of course, will be presented to us by the technical persons. I want to welcome our board member, Dr. Allen Kabagenyi, who's here with us. She is also representing our board chairperson, Dr. Albert Biamugisha. Can we give her a very big hand clap as she takes her seat? The board plays oversight role. So having our board member here is a great privilege. Dr. Ellen Kabagenyi, you're most welcome to this very wonderful event of dissemination of orphans and other vulnerable children census monograph, a very special report that has been generated from the 2024 census report. So our colleagues, our dear guests, all invited participants, I would like to inform you that we are going to be, we are already live online because technology has taken off, and the Uganda Bureau of Statistics is one of those institutions that has deeply embraced technology. You know that now we no longer collect any statistics using the paper questionnaire. Everything is now automated. So we have a number of participants who are following us online. We are going to be live on YouTube, the YouTube channel, the Zoom, our Twitter channel, all our social media platforms. We are going to be trending live, whatever is happening here. And just like it happened last Thursday, we had a number of participants who were actually following the event online. So we welcome those who are online, and feel free to participate at the right time, which will be told to us later on. So as we wait for the PS, Minister of Gender, don't be bored. Again, you can greet your neighbor. Greeting is good. In Africa, greeting is part of the home setup. If you grow up and you cannot greet a neighbor, you are termed as indisciplined person. But here we value discipline, we respect one another. In fact, it's one of our core values, mutual respect. Thank you. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please let's clap for our PS, Minister of Gender, who has arrived and is here in two capacities. Capacity number one is the PS, Minister of Gender, Labor and Social Development, Mr. Agre Chibenge, but is also here to represent the Minister for Gender, Labor and Social Development. When you look into the program, the PS was supposed to be speaking to us shortly after the board chairperson has welcomed us. However, he will be speaking to us, giving his message and message of the minister at the end of the presentation. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to invite you for the official opening of this session. We shall stand up for anthems and prayer. Let me invite Faith Atuhurira for a word of prayer.
Thank you, MC. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let's humble ourselves for a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, we come before you today on the 19th of March 2026. We thank you, Father, for this opportunity to come and deliberate on matters concerning the dissemination of the orphan and other vulnerable children monograph from the Census 2024 report. Heavenly Father, we ask that as the people deliberate and as the participants think about whatever is being discussed, Father, may you make it something that can be. Father, may these remarks go deep into the formulation of policy and decision making in the government of Uganda. Father, I want to thank you for this opportunity, and I also pray that whatever is deliberated upon gets implemented in the work of the Uganda Bureau of Statistics and the government at large. I thank you in Jesus' mighty name I pray. Amen.
Thank you for the wonderful prayer. As a country that believes in God, for God and my country, we believe that the Spirit of God has sanctified this function. Our dear guest of honor, representative of the Minister of Gender, Labor and Social Development, but also the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Gender, Labor and Social Development. Once again, we welcome you to this very special occasion as we disseminate the the orphans and other vulnerable children's report that has been generated from the Census Report 2024. I once again welcome our board member, Dr. Allen Kabagenyi, who is also representing our board chairperson, Dr. Albert Biamugisha. I take this opportunity to welcome once again the Chief Statistician of Uganda, Dr. Chris Mukiza, and his deputy, Dr. Vincent Fred Senono. They're all here with us. Let's give them a big hand clap. Our dear guest of honor, before you are guests who have been invited to participate in this very special occasion. We have people from Makerere University, we have representatives from UNICEF, USO. Your ministry has been highly represented, Ministry of Gender, Ministry of Education and Sports, UNFPA, UNICEF, they're all here with us. We also have the members of the media and UBOS fraternity who are in charge of this stethoscope production. Can we give them a very big hand clap? Ladies and gentlemen, like I said earlier, we are going to keep time, and therefore we shall do everything within the limits of the program for today. And on that note, therefore, take this singular honor and opportunity. Executive Director, Dr. Chris Mukiza, who is also the Chief Statistician of Uganda, to welcome us to this dissemination workshop. Dear Edie, you are most welcome. Let's give him a big hand clap as he comes to welcome all of us.
Our chief guest and the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Gender, Labor and Social Development, representatives from our development partners, we recognize UNICEF, UNFPA, UNDP, UN Women, and others who are present here. Representatives from ministries, departments and agencies, I recognize colleagues from NIRA and those from Ministry of Gender, our friends from higher institutions of learning, teaching. I recognize the Dean, School of Statistics, Makerere University. In a special way, I recognize my classmate, Professor Yovan Rubare, who actually played a big part in developing this monograph. I recognize members from the civil society organization and researchers, and especially a representative of the Friends of the Chair for Census. We recognize you and your team, Dr. David Bizimana, acting chairperson, and members of the board of directors, UBOS, senior management, staff of Uganda Bureau of Statistics, media fraternity, or invited guests in respective capacities. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. We'd like to take this opportunity to welcome you here on the occasion where we are going to disseminate the monograph of orphans and other vulnerable children. As you will learn, a monograph is a deeper insight on what we already published in the main census report, volume 1. And this is not the first monograph. Since we disseminated the final report in December 2024, Uganda Bureau of Statistics has published a separate report of the population projections up to 2050, and is posted on Uganda Bureau of Statistics website. We are also going to do some few prints. Those of you who are futuristic are enjoined to get interested in the census, in the population projections. We also produced a volume 2 of sub-regional profiles where we have data up to village level. And this volume was very useful in the past election season. Many candidates were using it to give their platforms on what they want to do for the country. And the Uganda Bureau of Statistics were happy that the data we produce was now being used in shaping the democratic path of the country. We have also published volume 3, which is the first monograph of the census, concentrating on disability. These monographs have been generated following user demands. We produce statistics that is demand driven, and it also, as I said, gives a closer look at the variables of the subject of interest to enable the sectors get better plans and remedies to respond to the emerging challenges from the monographs. In generating this monograph I'm going to publish today, the Bureau received financial support from UNICEF, and for obvious reasons they are responsible for children's welfare, and I've been working with them for a long time. The participation of UNICEF enables Uganda to produce quality statistics that improve the plight and welfare of children in the country and globally. I would wish therefore to call upon all of us here to join me in applauding UNICEF for their immense contribution and goodwill. We look forward to deepening our relationship in order to generate more comprehensive statistical reports. We have started on a new one in the country, a survey globally referred to as a multi-indicator cluster survey mix. This one will be having modules, a module on women, module on children, module on disability, and so forth, so that we can answer questions and the gaps that remained unanswered from the National Population Census. So again, we thank you for having agreed to financially support the mix. We would also like to extend gratitude to the Ministry of Finance and the Government of Uganda for supporting 97% of the Census 2024, from which we generated massive data that is enabling us to produce these monographs. Please join me also in applauding Government of Uganda. And in particular, the proud Government of Uganda for not interfering with the statistical processes. They have abided by the principle of professional independence of a national statistical office. And we would wish other countries in the region and globally to borrow the reef from Uganda. Before I conclude, I would like to bring to your attention the other monograph that will be disseminated next week. It will be volume 5 of Multidimensional Poverty Index. This one will be telling us the general deprivation of the country. What we normally produce after the surveys is the consumption or income poverty. Now, from the census, we have enough data to show us the number of deprivations. So we call upon all of you and the general public to keep alert and come for the dissemination on 22nd of April. We shall also disseminate other reports. For those of you who have seen our public statement, the risk calendar is up there and on our website. We want to engage you and use statistics before the financial end so that we can plan for the next year much better. We want to assure you that we remain committed to our mandate of producing high quality statistics that support evidence-based planning, policy formulation and decision making, and in coordinating the national school system in the country. And finally, we encourage the media in particular who are here to propagate these statistics further to the usage in a language you understand better. To the academia, please, the monograph is not also exhaustive. When I was reading it, I was asking so many questions. We can dig deeper and do much more data mining and analyze and publish on that theme and others. We shall avail you with the data. The other day I was discussing with the representative of universities who agreed to share with you all the data for UDHS so that you can do justice to it. But please, when you do, acknowledge the source of the data. If not, then we may have a different arrangement with you. With those many remarks, I once again welcome you and wish you nice deliberations. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, join me to thank our dear ED for such a very powerful remark, welcoming us to this dissemination. And one of the things I picked from ED's remarks was the professional independence of statistical production. I think this is very, very important. But again, you know, ED gave liberty to the media to use this data and put it in the word they understand best. But ED, they should not commit any type 2 error. Type 2 error should not be committed. That means that we should not deviate from the principles of data production, but also from the facts that have been presented during this dissemination. So my brothers in the media, I hope you take that seriously. Once again, thank you, Chief Statistician of Uganda, for those very powerful and wonderful remarks this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, like it has been said already, we are disseminating a monograph from the census. And of course, we also have those who do the oversight function of the Bureau, and that is the board of the Uganda Bureau of Statistics, who are here present with us. I will take this very wonderful opportunity given to me as the Director of Ceremonies to invite our board member, Dr. Allen Kabagenyi, to give us her remarks and also declare this workshop officially open. A big hand clap for Doctor.
Thank you very much, Director Ceremonies. It's really a great pleasure to be here, and I'm so happy that you have all come. I'm here to represent the Chairman, Board of Directors of Uganda Bureau of Statistics, Dr. Albert Byamjisha. He would have loved to be here, but he's out on official duties, and I want to let you know that he's here with us in spirit. And I'm so grateful that you came in as invited, and we are so excited to have you here. As I relay his remarks, allow me to start off with a protocol. The Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development, who is also representing the Minister of Gender, Labor and Social Development, the UNICEF representative in Uganda, representatives from all the development partners present. We had the list. We're really excited to have you here. Representatives from government ministries, departments, and agencies. And allow me also to highlight, I see a presence of a number of our partners from the MDAs nearer here, among others. Members of the UBOS Board of Directors, the Executive Director, Management, UBOS staff, the academia, a list of universities represented here, and it's exciting to see the Dean, School of Statistics and Planning, Busitema University, Makerere University, School of Public Health here, quite a number. The academia and researchers present, civil society organizations, the media fraternity, all invited guests in your respective capacities, including our online audience. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Awesome, happy to hear the voices. On behalf of the Board of Directors of the Uganda Bureau of Statistics, I wish to welcome you to that important occasion as we disseminate the Orphans and Vulnerable Children Census Monograph of 2024. The board takes great pride in fostering an enabling environment and overseeing the production of quality official statistics with official statistics that support evidence-based planning, monitoring, and evaluation of government programs. I wish to note that reliable data is not only a technical requirement for policymakers, but also a strategic national asset that enables government and development partners to make informed decisions that improve the lives of our citizens. Building on the work done by the Uganda Bureau of Statistics and all organs of government regarding localization of the Sustainable Development Goals, commonly known as the SDGs targets. These statistical indicators from this monograph should help us to contextualize this further, develop and implement action plans focusing on improving the overall well-being of orphans and other vulnerable children, more especially focusing on their protection, on education, and reducing the systemic inequalities as already laid out in our National Development Plan series. In the long run, this can be a key driver towards achieving, as we look at the different SDGs. Allow me to highlight SDG 1 that relates to poverty. And in this way, as we target the implementation of social protection systems for vulnerable children. Again, as I highlight the other, which is the SDG 4, which relates to quality education, which also aims at targeting elimination of gender disparities and ensuring equal access to education and vocational training for vulnerable children. The other very critical SDG 10 relates to the reduced inequalities. That also aims at targeting elimination of discrimination against children without parental care and or from disadvantaged backgrounds. Another very critical SDG is SDG number 16, which relates to peace, justice, and strong institutions, targeting and focusing on ending abuse, exploitation, trafficking, violence, and provision of legal identity through birth registration. At the strategic level, the board remains committed to ensuring that the Bureau maintains the high standards of professionalism, integrity, and statistical excellence. We continue to support all investments in modern data systems and having skilled human resources and innovative data approaches that strengthen Uganda's statistical capacity. All these initiatives have strongly been supported by government through constant funding of statistical activities and acquisition of supporting statistical infrastructure. As I conclude the verbatim remarks of our board chair, I would like to congratulate all the technical teams. Allow me to pause so that we just clap for them, please. Especially our UNICEF partner. The partners, all the different stakeholders involved in the preparation and processing of the data that has culminated into the dissemination of this monograph today. Again, permit me to ask you to clap for this entire list. As I end, I wish to declare this dissemination workshop officially open. I thank you, and I wish you nice deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you, our dear board member. A very big hand clap for her as she takes her seat. She has promised to do all it takes to ensure that we are constant and we even do better as the board. With their guidance, the Bureau is always steadfast, especially on statistical production that is so much needed, not only by the country, but also even by other development partners and the world development frameworks, such as the SDG, the African Union Agenda, the East African Community Agenda, the Vision 2040. So all our statistics make great contribution into informing these development frameworks, but also monitoring the performance of these frameworks. Our board member, we thank you for those very beautiful, wonderful remarks and for opening this session officially. We are going to the main gist of today, where we shall be listening from the presenters, giving us the details that have been generated in the monograph. And therefore, at this point in time, I would like to invite our team, the technical team, statisticians, to come and present the findings. But as they do that, I will request humbly that our guest of honor, the ED and the board member, take a lower seat for now. You will go back there later so that we can wholesomely follow this presentation. Thank you so much.
Riding on the protocol that has already been established. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sharon Uwamahoro Mfite, and I'm a senior statistician in the demography unit in the Department of Demography and Social Statistics. Right now, I stand here before you to present the Orphans and Other Vulnerable Children monograph, which was based on the National Population and Housing Census of 2024. Before we go deep into the discussions, here is the presentation outline, which begins with the introduction, giving us context into the OVC monograph. We have the overview of the children population that gives us the demographic context. Then we shall present the key findings on orphans and other vulnerable children. Then finally, we shall present the summary of the findings. Acknowledgements have already been done, but allow me add my voice to the previous speakers and acknowledge and appreciate the government of Uganda for its continued commitment to strengthening the national statistical system. I would also like to appreciate my fellow staff of Uganda Bureau of Statistics for their resilience and commitment and hard work they've put in to ensure that this monograph is disseminated. And also appreciate UNICEF for the financial and technical support it rendered to the production of this monograph. The previous speakers have already highlighted to you that this monograph is based on the 2024 National Population Census. Maybe to bring you to context, in May 2024, we had data collection for the National Population and Housing Census. And this report was disseminated in December 2024. However, several reports have been published based on that report, and of them, there is the Population Projections Report 2025. The main census report was volume 1, and several other series of volumes have been published. A case in point are the 17 sub-regional profiles that were published in June 2025. We later published the Disability Monograph in July 2025, and today we stand here before you to publish the volume 4 series, which is the orphans and other vulnerable children, in most cases where I'll be using the OVC. We cannot underscore the importance of collecting orphans and vulnerable children. However, we need to highlight that much as the census was comprehensive enough, it did not provide detailed analysis on children, most especially those who are orphans and vulnerable. So this report provides evidence based on decision making, policy formulation, further research and appropriate resource allocation to meet the evolving needs of these groups of children. It also will help in tracking progress, most especially the national progress, towards the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals, most particularly on good health and well-being, which is Goal 3, gender equality, quality education, and among the other goals that were mentioned by the previous speakers. And lastly, but not least, this report will help in monitoring progress of the National Child Policy 2020. If you could get time, you could read the National Child Policy. What are the main objectives of this monograph? This monograph provides levels and distribution of categories of orphans and other vulnerable children in Uganda. It also presents key socioeconomic characteristics associated with vulnerability among the children. This may include health, it may include education, and other socio-economic characteristics. In the monograph, we have several definitions that we are using. However, these are the key definitions that would want to point out before we dive deeper into what is in. We define a child as a person aged less than 18 completed years. And that is what we have in the Constitution of Uganda. We also define an orphan as a child who has lost either one or both parents. We also have another strong definition. But in our context, a vulnerable child is a child who is either experiencing or likely to experience lack of adequate care and protection. And these include abandoned children, children who are exposed or likely to be exposed to risks of poverty, disability, forced displacement, or living in situations of inadequate adult support. This is how we are defining a vulnerable child in this report. As we move on, Our main focus will be on those key thematic areas. First and foremost, we shall focus on the overview of children in Uganda. As I had said, this is giving us the context into how the orphans and other vulnerable children are coming in. We shall also look at parental survivorship of these children, which includes orphanhood status and other vulnerable children, plus child mothers, because they also face a higher risk of vulnerability. The monograph answers a wide range of questions. It answers how many children are affected by vulnerability, what are their ages, what is their sex, who are they, are we able to identify them, where are they, where do they live, are they in the urban areas, are they in the rural, which districts are most affected, which regions are most affected, are they living with their parents or not, and so on and so forth. So this is what we are answering. So this is the overview of the children population. And as you see in the graph, in 2024, 22.2% were children aged 0 to 17. The number of children increased over the 20-year period. You can see an increase from 13% to 19% in 2014 and 22% in 2024. However, analyzing the graph by sex, you realize that there's no much sex differentials, as shown in the blue and the orange bar. We present to you the sex ratio of children 2022 to 2024. The sex ratio is the proportion of males per 100 females. So a ratio of 100 indicates an equal number of males and females, while a ratio below 100 indicates more females than males, and a ratio of 100 indicates more males than females. Looking at the graph, 2024 has a ratio of 100, meaning there's no difference. They are equal in number. 2014 sex ratio was 103, meaning there were slightly more males than females. We present to you the population pyramid of children in Uganda. One is for 2014, another one is for 2024. Looking at it, we see one main characteristic of those two pyramids. You realize that at the base of 2014 pyramid is wider compared to the one of 2024. What does that imply? It implies that in the 10-year period, the total fertility rate or the birth rates have declined. And we can confirm it from the total fertility rates that we had, from 5.8 in 2014 to 4.5 in 2024. However, looking at the quality of the pyramid, you also see that the 2024 pyramid is smoother compared to the one of 2014. What does that mean? In 2024, Uganda had its first digital census. Everything was automated. So errors occurring from either age heaping and other errors were eliminated in that case. So that means whatever output is being produced is of good quality. So that is why you see that two pyramids are different. You can see the other one has indents in them, but this one is a little bit smoother. So we go into orphanhood in Uganda. This graph shows the parents' survival status among children. You remember how we defined an orphan, the other side in our definition. In the 2024 census, we had questions on parental survivorship. One question was asking, is Nem's biological mother alive? And we had responses of yes, no, and don't know. And the same applies to the biological father. We investigated to know whether Nem's biological father was alive, and the answer was yes, no, or don't know. So this graph is communicating a lot. 86.3 or 86% of children aged 0 to 17 had both their parents alive, while 6.2 had their mother alive, but their father was dead. 2.5 of the children had their father alive, while their mother was dead. And 4.2% of the children had both parents dead, or what we call double orphans in our layman's language. However, 0.8% or less than 1% didn't know the survival status of the children. However, of the parents. Before I leave this slide, I would like to expound more on the don't know of survival status. Remember, in the census, we were asking questions to any eligible respondent in the household. So the don't know does not necessarily mean that this parent, they don't know the whereabouts of this parent. But depending on whom you found in the household, that don't know may mean that that respondent did not actually know whether the parent of this child was alive or not. I think I'm clear with that. This graph shows the percentage of children who are orphans by orphan type. And 2.9%, sorry about that, 13% of the children had one or both their parents dead. And this accounts for about 3 million children who were orphans. While 4% had both parents dead, then 6% had only the father dead. So looking at the three categories of orphanhood, which is only father dead, only mother dead, and both parents dead, you see that the proportion of children who had their fathers dead was higher than the other orphanhood statuses. Orphanhood by sex. Now this graph disaggregates the previous graph into sex differentials. Given the fact that we had also communicated that there's no much, the sex ratio is 100, meaning they are equal number of males to females. So when it comes to also orphanhood, you see that there's no much difference. 2.5% of the males had only their mother dead, and the same applies to the females. And when you go to the ones who had their fathers dead, you see that there's no much difference. It's only a 0.2% point difference, so meaning there's no much differentials. Orphanhood levels by rural residents. Orphanhood is much higher in rural areas compared to urban areas. 14% of children had one or both their parents dead in rural areas compared to 12% of children in urban areas. This is orphanhood by age of the child. Looking at those line graphs, we are seeing that the rate of orphanhood increases as the age of the child increases. And we are also seeing that the percent of children who had their fathers dead is increasing compared to how the mothers are dying or both parents. So, ladies and gentlemen, where could the parents be? Why are our fathers or our husbands or our brothers dying to that rate? You can see the gap in between there. This is the map of Uganda, you can all see it, and presenting the percentage of children who are orphaned by sub-region. The darker shades, that is West Nile, Madi, and Karamoja, are showing regions where the rate of orphanhood is higher, while the lighter shades, Teso and Kampala, are showing regions with the least orphanhood rate. This is a regional map. It is a map of Central Region, and it is disaggregating orphanhood by district. And Rengo district had the highest proportion of children who were orphans at 16%, followed by Sembabule at 15%, then Kasanda and Rakai follows. I'll still pose the same question to you members. What is happening in those districts? The Eastern region, we have Bududa district with the highest rates of orphanhood at 18%. What is the problem? Is it the mudslides? What is the problem exactly? policymakers or analysts, maybe you'll have to highlight or to bring it out in a much better way. In the Western region, we are seeing that in Toroko's rate is also much higher. It is above the national average at 18%. Still, what is the problem? Is it because it is at the border conflicts? Chukube, Chiriandongo, and Isinjiro, Kamwenge, and Chegegwa have equally high proportions of children who are orphaned. And those who know these places very well, we know that these places have refugee settlements. So do we want to say that these children lost their parents before becoming refugees into the country? Or where is the problem? Because you can see there's a similarity in those districts. Dr. Bizimana is here. He will have to say something about it. The northern region, we have Yumbe with 27.3% of orphanhood rate, followed by Kabong and Nabila Tuk, then Adjumani. This graph presents orphanhood by sex. It compares 2002 and 2024. Comparing the two graphs, the two bars of 2002 and 2024, you see that there's a slight decline in the orphanhood rate. Next, we shall look at school attendance status of orphans in Uganda. And in the 2024 census, we had questions on school attendance, which were asked for children aged 3 years and above. The question was, has NEM ever attended formal school or any early childhood education program? We have yes and no. And if yes, did NEM attend school at any time during the 2024 schooling year? With these responses, we are able to get 3 categories of school attendance. One is currently attending by the time of the census, attended in the past, and never attended. Findings show that the proportion of non-orphans in school was higher than the proportion of orphans in school. Looking at the age category of 3 to 5 years, which is the early childhood education age, you see that while 47% of non-orphans were in school, it is only 29% who are in school. And the same applies to the category of 6 to 17 years, where while 72% were currently attending school, their orphan counterparts were only 54% who are currently attending school. The previous figure was later dissected to represent the three age categories separately. These are orphans who are 3 to 5 years by their school attendance. And still, you see a similar trend in attendance between the non-orphans and orphans. Among the non-orphans, 46% were currently attending school, while only 28% of orphans were in school. Ladies and gentlemen, the figure speaks for itself. Still, I'll throw it back to you as the analysts, what intervention needs to be made, most especially for these vulnerable children in terms of education. When we look at the older age group, 6 to 17 years, this is the age group that is expected to be in primary and part of secondary. 71% of males who were non-orphans were currently attending school, compared to the 54% of males who were orphans. And the trend is still similar to the female, where 72% of female who are non-orphans were currently attending school, compared to 54% of females who were orphans. Now we look at employment by orphanhood status. In the census, we had questions on current employment. Children were asked whether they engaged in any activity for pay or profit in the previous 7 days, even if it was for only 1 hour. So this is where we are deriving the employment indicator from. Every child who was 10 years and above was asked this question. However, because the working age group begins from 15 plus, the international one, and the one for Uganda begins from 14, we shall only report on employment in those internationally and nationally recognized age groups. So, among the orphans, 21% were engaged in employment, while 19% of non-orphans were engaged in employment. What does it mean? It means that orphanhood usually sends these children much earlier to look for survival, despite them being children and having that void of not having parents. When it comes to sex, you realize that the proportion of females who were in employment was higher than the one of males across both the proportion of orphans who were female was higher than the ones who were females but non-orphans. So it is communicating the same thing. In the total, it is higher, but when it comes to sex, still the females and the males orphans is higher than the non-orphans. So this graph is similar to the previous one. However, this is reporting for 14 to 17 age group. As I had said earlier, we are reporting on 2 age groups. One is the international standard for 15 plus, which is the first slide. And this is the national standard for 14 and above. So it is comparative of us to report on both indicators. %20 of orphans were in employment compared to 18% of non-orphans. Still, when you look at the sex, you see that orphans rate is higher than the non-orphans, and the explanation is the same. Orphans are sent to go and fend for themselves at a much earlier time compared to the non-orphans. However, if we are to go back, you realize that in the 15 to 17 age group, the rate of employment is a little bit higher than the one in the 14 to 17 age group. This is largely because among the children who are aged 15, most of them weren't working. So the denominator is a little bit wider of those who are not working compared to the 15 to 17. Because you might want to ask, why is it that when we reduce the age category, the rate becomes higher than when you increase the category? Ladies and gentlemen, my presentation ends there. And right now, I would like to invite my colleague, Mr. Brian Wakoli, to proceed with the next presentation. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much, Sharon Wamahoro. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Wakoli Brian, and I'm going to take you through other vulnerable children. So other vulnerable children include children whose parent survival status is unknown and child mothers. So these are the 2 areas I'm going to focus on in this presentation. So unknown parental survival status, let's define it. The UN Convention on the Rights of the Child emphasizes that children should know their parents, not be separated from their parents, and be looked after by their parents unless there are reasons why that is not possible. And children should have a family or belonging that is an identity. So that is what we are going to focus on mainly. Let's look at the distribution of children whose parental survival status is unknown. And in the census 2024, we asked a question: is Name's biological mother alive? Like the previous presenter said, we asked the most eligible member of the household, not everyone. So it is possible that the survival status of the parent is known or unknown. And from the findings, we see that 1 in every 1,000 children, 1 in every 1,000 children don't know their parental survival status. And the distribution is as follows. We have those whose mother is alive and mother dead, and we also have those whose father is alive and father dead. And then lastly, those who don't know both about their father or mother. So, distribution of these children shows that those who don't know their father are at 40%, followed by those who don't know both their parents. Those for whom the parents are unknown is the right word. And if we disintegrate this into male and female, still you will see that the proportions are almost the same for both males and females. Close, though they differ, but the difference is not that big. Then we went ahead and looked at the percentage of children whose parental survival status is unknown by age. So we split these children from between 0 to 17, because we know a child is between 0 to 17. And from the graph you can see that majority of the affected children are those who are 17 years. We also looked at the percentage of children aged 3 to 17 for whom survival status of a parent is unknown by schooling status. We want to know whether these children are in school, are out of school, or they've never gone to school. And from the graph you can see that children for whom the fathers are unknown have a relatively high prevalence of attended in the past, which means they are not in school. They were not in school at the time of the census. That is the 36.8. The rates for only mother unknown are slightly lower. We also looked at the percentage of children for whom survival status of a parent is unknown by the residence of this child, whether the child stays in a rural area or urban area. And you can see from our findings that there is not so much a big deviation between urban and rural, though for rural the rates are slightly higher for only mother unknown. So that's a brief on the information we had on children whose parental status is unknown. We're also now going to look at the child motherhood and child motherhood. And we defined child motherhood as a child mother. We said a child mother is any female child aged less than 18 years who has ever given birth, irrespective of the survival status of the baby. Child motherhood occurs in all societies with considerable variation in magnitude and consequences across different regions. These young mothers often face severe risks, including high mortality rates during from pregnancy complications, poverty, school dropout, and social stigma, often requiring urgent health and educational support. So we looked at the percentage of children who were child mothers, and overall, out of the 4,619,063 girls in Uganda at the time of the census, we had 68,787 girls who had children or who had ever given birth. What does this mean? It means that on average, it means that about 2 in every 100 girls you meet on your way down have a child. The only bad thing is we didn't discuss the proprietors, but maybe the perpetrators, sorry. Let us look at the percentage of child mothers by age at first birth. So we want to see which ages are more affected. And from the graph you can see that majority of these girls start suffering at around 15 years. That is where they suffer most. 15 up to 17. Below 15, they are safe, though we still have a few. We also looked at the percentage of child mothers by school attendance. We wanted to know whether these children are in school, attended in the past, or they never went to school. And from the findings you can see that majority of these girls are not in school. 83% of these girls ever attended school or attended in the past, but are no longer in school. We also looked at the percentage of child mothers by orphanhood status. We wanted to know, are these child mothers orphans or not? What makes them? And we realized that majority of them are orphans at 2.1%, and the non-orphans are 1.4%. And we went further to disaggregate and see the type of orphanhood. We realized that those whose fathers died are at risk. I think maybe there's no one to defend them or to fight for them. We now went further and looked at the areas which are most affected. From the graph you can see that the most affected sub-region the most affected sub-region is Bunyoro. That is at sub-regional level, not at the lower levels. So we have Bunyoro, which is most affected, where we have a high percentage of child mothers. followed by Renzori, and the least affected is, I think, Kampala, yes, followed by Ankole and Chigezi. We now went further and did a district disaggregation. We wanted to see which district is most affected, and from the we split our map into 4 regions: Central, East, North, and West. And from Central, you can see that Buvuma district is the most affected, followed by Nakaseke, followed by Kalangala, yes, and Nakaseke. And in northern Uganda, the most affected districts are what? Kole district, yes, Kole district, followed by Arua district, and Amolata. In the western part of the country, the most affected district is Bundibujo, yes, Bundibujo, followed by Hoima. And in the eastern part of the country, Namayingo district had the highest percentage of child mothers. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me now take you through the summary of the findings. From the whole presentation, we see that 13% of the children who were orphans, were orphans. By orphans, we mean lost one or both parents in 2024. Percentage of orphans was highest in Madi with a 20%, 20.1%, and lowest in Kampala sub-region. And then 29% of orphans aged 3 to 5 were attending school. 54% of orphans aged 6 to 17 were attending school, and 21% of orphans aged 15 to 17 were in employment. In addition, the survival status of a parent was unknown for 0.7% of all children, and 59% of children for whom the survival status of only father was unknown were currently attending school, compared to 19% for whom survival status of only mother was unknown. 1.5% of children 10 to 17 years have ever given birth. The prevalence of child mothers was higher among orphans than non-orphans. The prevalence of child mothers was highest in Bunyoro sub-region and lowest in Kampala. And the prevalence of child mothers was highest in Namayingo district and lowest in Chisoro and Kabong at 0.3%. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
our dear chief guest and the permanent secretary, Minister of Gender, Labor and Social Development. I think these guys have done a fantastic job. We must appreciate them. With a bigger hand clap, I will then invite you to take back your seats. Representative of the board chair, our acting chairperson, the ED, the deputy ED. We are going to have a plenary. We are going to be expecting questions. We are going to have a plenary. I think you have listened, and you know the presenters have warned us that so on this table, I would like to also invite our presenters for the day. That is Sharon and Wakole to join this very special table. It is an honor to be present up there. 2.1 of the teenage mothers are orphaned or were as of 2024. But again, the presenters have also warned us that the issue comes age difference, 15 years, 15, 16. It is where the risk is higher. So the parents will have to be very conscious with our daughters of that age group. So we are going to be passing the microphone, and if you have any concern, please feel free to raise them up so that we can get formidable responses from these members. So you will be telling us your name, the institution, and then you go ahead with your question or comment. Let's keep it short so that we can remain within our time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Ronald Kasule from UN Population Fund. Specifically, I support disability inclusion, and you know our role is to support government of Uganda fulfill the mandate and the international commitment, including the global development agenda. I heard our chair referred to some of the SDGs, but I also want to say that we have that promise to leave no one behind. I was very happy to see that the report was referring to disability as one of the causes of vulnerability. Unfortunately, the report did not go further to disaggregate so that we can know how many children with disabilities that we have. This is a very big challenge when it comes to planning. Wherever we go to planning for disability, for person with disability, they ask, how many, where are they? Chair, I also note that we already have the disability monograph. Unfortunately, it considered the Washington group definition of disability, which does not consider children below 5 years. Now, if they are missing in this report, my question is, have we erased them? How can we track them? Where are they? We have not reported, and how can we attend to their development needs? I'll be happy to have some insights on how we can address this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. There is a hand up there.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joan from UBC. First, I commend UBOS for having carried out such a very significant exercise. It helps the government on a lot of policy making. So I do understand the data will help government and development agencies better understand the scale of vulnerability among children. But what I do not know is whether the report highlighted some of the challenges these children do face.
Thank you. Any other hand? Behind you.
Good morning. Good afternoon, members. My names are Ambrose Gahene. I'm a journalist working with Watchdog Online. I wanted the senior statisticians to highlight us, especially the media people, about where the Karamojong children who are in Kampala fall. Is it among the vulnerable ones, or are they among orphans, or are they among trafficked children? Because they have been a challenge in this city for quite some time. In particular, at one time they were rounded up and taken back to Karamoja, and then again they were brought back. But rumors go online and among the population that there is some invisible hand behind the trafficking of these children from Karamoja sub-region back to Kampala to make money for some unscrupulous people. I wanted the statisticians specifically to tell us if at all they have in their data this group of people. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe the last hand.
Thank you. A very good afternoon, everyone. My name is Simon Kabayo from Eagle Online. One of the presenters posed the question, why is there much orphanhood, especially in men? So as UBOS, wasn't there any way whatsoever to say that we could find the reason as to why there is much of this orphanhood, or there is much of the death of the fathers more than the mothers, or in any way, in the next census, provide that we can find these reasons so that they can be put into the report for the people to know? Or is there any other ministry that these statistics will be sent to find these reasons why there is more death in this, especially now in Toroko? We can say maybe because of the conflicts, our fathers go to the DRC to look for grass for the animals. Then also maybe in Ruengo there are conflicts of politics. So can we find, or can you both get that time to put those reasons in that report? Thank you.
One. Okay, there are two hands here, and this will be the last.
Good afternoon. I'm David Bismana. I'm representing Joy for Children, but I'm a statistician. Let me first thank the team that went through this exercise right away from the census and the presentation of this OVC report. I think the challenge we have in such circumstances, the moment you disseminate a report of this nature, you excite people. They will start asking smaller and smaller things that we cannot really answer at this moment. Let me give you an example. Forced displacement, there is what I would say, there is induced displacement and there's self-inflicted displacement. So you find that what you are combining as displacement, we may need further to go and find out, for example, if the case of the Karamajongo children, are they forced displacement or self-inflicted displacement? We are looking at also refugees in that category. Did we go further analyzing them by the type of displacement? What I'm trying to say on this case is we have not read the main report, because some of these things we're asking, they may be in the main report. So I don't know how you're going to handle this.
Extend it to the other side,
Thank you very much. My name is Fred Ngavirano, Commissioner for Youth and Children Affairs, Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development. I want to add my voice Thank you, ED, for giving me this privilege. I want to add my voice to thank UBOS, and also from the remarks of the board chair and the ED. To me, what you are sharing with us is a drop in the ocean in regard to understanding the vulnerabilities of our children. You focused on key parameters, and the findings there speak to what some of us as practitioners over years we know. First, I want to affirm that, for example, Namayingo, I took notes from our teenager pregnancy and child marriage surveillance by Ministry of Health, Gender, Education. We have a framework where we are monitoring Namayingo surfaces as one of the districts with this big challenge. Namayingo, Butaleja, if I can pick. When you go to Bunyoro, what the report has revealed, the Chikube, that area, it comes out. Then when it comes to western, southwestern, Bushenyi, the greater Bushenyi, I worked there for 16 years. I was a probation senior up to head of department. Still Buweju, I'm not surprised it came out. What am I saying? For me, as someone who has been in this struggle, I want to affirm the scientific value and the authenticity of this report. I want to thank you. Two, Dr. Moses from UNICEF is on the agenda, but UBOS has also helped us. This is for the stakeholders here to come up with a child poverty analysis for Uganda. And the issues of child marriage, child poverty, the orphanhood, all these things there, they correlate. So I'm not surprised. Three, as a ministry, we partner with other highly recognized international national NGOs. AfriChild is one of our leading supporters. And whatever study we take, UBOS validates the tools up to analysis. And these things are there. As my neighbor said, at this level, we cannot go into the nitty-gritty of each and everything. We can cross-reference with other studies. For example, Makerere University, Department of Population and Statistics did a study during COVID, codenamed the socio-economic impact of COVID on girls and young women. And we studied 4 areas. It was in partnership with Ministry of Gender. I was a co-principal investigator. 9 PhD holders plus our team from the ministry. And the things we have been shown here, they were revealed. The children in employment, child labor. The child labor here, if you go in those areas, it is in mining, it is in the production chain, the coffee chain, the sugar, and all that. So I want to request members that we cross-reference with some of the studies. And the board chair and the executive director, what we are doing now at the ministry, we are partnering with academic institutions, even to influence areas of focus in regard to research by students. For example, there are categories here I'm going to outline in the best interest of time, where we are kind of intentionally directing the researchers. The issue of mental health among children, the substance abuse, drug abuse. Last year we launched a national report, Youth and Children in Crime. And that report is now published, a national report. And UBOS, you played a role. That one can guide. We have children in conflict with the law and contact with the law. They may not be here in this report, but they are there. My PS is here. We have 7 remand homes. And on average, as I talk now, we have over 1,300 children. And if any of you goes even to Naguru here, it has over 270 as I speak. And most of these children are not children from poor families. They are victims of parental issues. And I'm very happy that the issue of parenting has come up. So the issues, the categories not covered here can be explored through partnership. Any NGO, any academic institution interested, you come to us, Line Ministry or Ministry of Health Education, we work with UBOS and we explore more. There are so many things. I want to comment on the issue of parents. Where are the fathers? Children who don't know their parents. We did a study on parent-child communication, again with Makerere. I was a co-principal investigator. Eastern Uganda, Busia and Tororo. The report is also published. It was launched at Fairway. It's a national report. What we found out, the border areas, parents, not necessarily fathers, even mothers, go to work in Kenya for 3 up to 6 or 2 years, and the children remain home. And the issues of defilement, incest, all of them come out. Lastly, those who are interested in COVID alone, if you interrogate our statistics from the Uganda Child Helpline, the issue of incest is there. We registered 3,052 cases. 10% of those cases was a result of incest, where fathers defile their own biological daughters. It is something not here in this report, but a silent killer. Lastly, I would encourage that issue of child trafficking. Let me also talk about it. Kalamoja, we did a study funded by USAID by then, Makerere University Institute of Public Health, Ministry of Gender, and we have a published report. UBOS also supported us. Whatever I'm saying here, for us, our studies are validated. The tools and everything by UBOS. The findings are revealing. The findings are revealing. And I want to conclude by saying, when I saw Arua, it reminded me a few months ago when the Arua district local government almost declared Arua an emergency area in regard to child marriage. Culturally, girls there compete to have children in their communities. So your report is authentic, and it really points to a bigger problem than we are talking about. Thank you very much.
Mr. Commissioner, now you know why you spoke from here. Thank you so much for giving those confirmatory messages to the audience and all the participants who are here present. Allow me to move this microphone so that issues can be responded to.
Before we respond, I want to call upon the main author of the report to also move there, speak to some of the issues they have asked, but also what you have not addressed in the PowerPoint that may answer some concerns. But in only 5 minutes, not more than 5 minutes. Professor Rubari, please.
Thank you. Thank you, ED. My name is Jovan Moses Rubale, and I am a visiting professor in the Faculty of Health Science, Busitema University, since 2018, but I had been in Makerere good afternoon. My name is Jovan Moses Rubale, and I was introducing myself that I am a visiting professor at the Faculty of Health Science, Busitema University, Mbale campus. As a main author of this report, there are a few simple comments I want to make, and even answer a few questions that have been raised, which the presenters may not be able to answer, or they may take long. One is that whereas they have presented about orphanages and vulnerable children, in the main report, if you go there, there are other parts which have not been presented. For example, we present child marriages, we present refugee children, we present children with birth certificates, children with NIN, because all of these are a form of vulnerability to children. The issue about children with disability, we discussed it, and there was a reason why we did not present it, because partly it had been presented in the monograph for disability, but partly the person who asked the question even gave the answer. It is because of how we were asked to define disability by using the UN Convention of only asking those 5 years and above. So because of that, we thought that we can leave that one in. Then the person who answered the question about children from Karamoja and so on, we refer those ones as the floating population, which we briefly presented. I want to give a few statistics. For example, if you look at orphan children, 3 million children were orphans in 2024. What does that mean? It means that you can add some districts like the population of the whole of Acholi, Lango, and Karamoja. Are we together? The other simple statistics you can look at, they said only 0.7% of the children did not know the survival status of their parents. But here you are looking at 192,000. We have districts with 50,000, 60,000, 70. So if you got the children who don't know the survival status of their parents, then you are talking about a big district not just a small district, because small districts like Bundu, John, Torok, and so on. So that one they've not presented. The other thing which they've not presented fully, which is in the report, is by ethnicity. We even looked at things for ethnicity. For example, the ethnic group with the highest orphaned children are the Aliba. 1 in 3, when you meet the Aliba children, 1 in 3 children are orphans. Then for the districts, you look at Yumbe, 34% are orphans. Now, when we look at why is this so, you will see that, for example, we give some probable reasons. We don't give the real reasons, but these are probable explanations. For example, Bududa is mainly because of landslides and in Toroko. Then you look at Yumbe, it is mainly because of refugee children. The same thing to Isingiro and other districts. So within the report, we try to come up with those probable reasons, because we are not certain whether they are the real reasons. You know, with the statistics, we give you facts, and then people who do qualitative, they tell you the story. Or the people in qualitative will tell you the story, then you give us the statistics. So I think those are some of the things that they were not able to present here quickly because of the timing. I mean, we have not presented the refugee children, we have not presented the floating children, we have not talked about child marriages and so on. Our guest of honor, the PS, we have, whereas today we are talking about child mothers, we have dropped. In 2002, we had 4% of girls 10 to 17 years they were child mothers. Now that one has dropped to 1.49%. So both in absolute numbers and in percentages, at least the number is going down. The other thing we looked at is child marriages. The number for boys went up a bit. And what was the reason is because of COVID. By the way, the boy child was more endangered during the COVID than the girl child. That's what the statistics reveal. For example, more boys dropped out of school than girls. Girls who became pregnant, for them, they went back to school. Boys who got jobs, they've refused to go back to school. You can see that. So we need to look at all these ones. I think that's why my friend, the commissioner, was presenting. By the way, he's our PhD student. I don't know when he's finishing, this year? Next year. So that's why he's more interested in all these things. And when we look at, I participated when we were doing the evaluation of the national strategy for ending child marriages and teenage pregnancy in Uganda before we made the second one. You will see that a lot of work is being done. My only concern is that I think you did not even invite enough NGOs. For example, in Busoga, there are NGOs like Good Neighbors. They've been working on, and the PS knows how much work they've done to ensure that we reduce child marriages and teenage pregnancy. So, all of these things, if you look at the main report, I am sure you are going to get them. And but look at the figures and make sense out of them. The advantage with this monograph, it provides you both the percentages and the absolute numbers. For example, it will tell you that among the, by ethnicity, whereas the Aliba ethnic group has the highest proportion of those who are vulnerable, the Baganda being the biggest ethnic group in terms of absolute numbers have the big numbers. This report also removes some of the stereotype things which people bring. For example, there's a WhatsApp group I belong to, and everybody was saying it is from Kamuri, and they said, oh, I think we are leading in child mothers and so on. And I asked them, where do you get your facts? So, please refer to these reports, refer to UBOS, and so on. To the ED, you talked about the issue of recognizing UBOS. Let me tell you, you give us all the data set. There is no single person who writes a report. For example, at the School of Public Health, if you write a dissertation and you don't indicate ethics to show that, one, you got permission from the source of data to use the data, we don't pass that report. We tell you to report, to repeat. So whether you want it or not, UBOS is being recognized. It has reached where you have not reached. Huh? I tried the other day to ask for DHS data, and they told me they needed 10%. Is it fast? Then before they give me the hand, this is you cannot begin giving me a sample of a sample. Just give us the DHS 100%. You go to the School of Statistics and you see people who are doing masters in population and reproductive health. All of them, they will say source of data. Uganda Demographic and Health Survey, which was collected by Uganda Bureau of Statistics in conjunction with macro this and so on. They will even cite you, and we tell them use the official citation. So I think that fear should not be there. Now to the PS, I think our greatest challenge may be for this monograph, we looked at each form of vulnerability independently. Now, what does it lack? It lacks what we call the most vulnerable. And who are the most vulnerable? Those are children who have more than one vulnerability. You don't know the survival status of your parents. You have never attended school. You are a child mother. You are working. And so such a child is most vulnerable. I think at one time I'm going to write a paper because I got the 10% of the census data, so that I will present to you what we call the most vulnerable. I'm interested in vulnerability because my PhD was on orphans and vulnerable children in Uganda. And I used the 2002 census. I have a very big volume of about 350 pages only. So I did a lot of this work. So I'm much more interested. So Mr. PS, representing the minister, I think we need to look at that one so that we can come up with a vulnerability index for Uganda. That way, when you begin giving policies and so on, it will help you so that you know how to help. Because, and we can use these other studies which have been done, and we can be able to solve the problem. I don't know whether I've tried to answer some of the questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you. A very big hand clap for the professor. A big hand clap for ED. And a big hand clap for the staff of the Bureau.
You know, we didn't have questions. That's why I'm calling upon relevant people to come and speak. Professor Moses, do you have any comment to make? From UNICEF? No, this is a time for professors. You can speak for 2 minutes.
Yeah, so I will just say a few things. I'm Moses, Dr. Moses Iche. I'm Chief of Social Policy UNICEF. I'm representing my boss who was not able to come here, Dr. Robin Nandi. I'll just say a few things in terms. So let me stand on the existing protocols, recognizing the PS, the board chair. I can't pronounce your name, Dr. Kawi. I can't pronounce that difficult name. But I just say that I think I also want to congratulate UBOS for this milestone. This is, I think UBOS is one of the national statistical agencies that wherever I've been in many countries, but I think UBOS is one of a unique one. I've been in Sierra Leone, I've been in Liberia, I've been a board member of the Statistics Sierra Leone, Liberia, Malawi, Namibia,
but I think I've enjoyed working with UBOS. So I think I really want to congratulate you on that. And I want to say that I think this report, now that I had not read the report, I knew basically, but I have not read the full report, but I think this report is so critical in providing information for children, and particularly I want to emphasize the key rights of the child in the UNCRC. The rights in terms of survival and development, the rights in terms of protection, development, and participation of children. What this report is doing is really to try to identify where, when we are talking about who are these children and where are they, because the idea is that we want to be able to ensure that when we are coming up with the policies and programs, we do not want to leave any child behind. And I think this report has done a good job in trying to identify how many children are we talking about, where are they. We know that the big challenge which our professor has talked about is multiple deprivations. It has identified a number of them, but I think having that combination of deprivations and coming up to see that what are the, where are the children, or which regions have the highest level of multiple deprivation is very important. But nonetheless, whatever is in this report is very useful for us in the United Nations, and I speak on behalf of the representative of UNICEF as well as my colleagues in the United Nations. For us, this is a very important report. We are now beginning to implement the UN Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework 2026-2030, and each of the agencies, including UNICEF, we are implementing our own country program, program documents, and this is a very important document for us in UNICEF. The child is everything for us. Anything about the child, this is our job on day-to-day basis. And this report is going to be very important in monitoring, of course, the National Development Program, NDP4, our UNCRC, the SDG agenda, that is, we are now planning going for the last lap to 2030, and Africa Agenda 2023, and the rest of the other things. I think from UNICEF, I would like to say that we really commit to continue supporting the Bureau. We are in the process of moving on the multiple indicator cluster survey, which is going to happen, it's going on 2026, 2027, and the violence against children and women survey. We're working with the Ministry of Gender. And so we will continue to really support the Bureau in terms of working in producing the data, because we know that without data, if you can't be counted, then there's no way we can do policy to support you. And this is one thing we put it as a priority, and we'll continue with it. I don't want to spend so much time. I know I was given 2 minutes. So, and the professor, especially been teaching in the university, you can speak and speak for a long time. So I don't want to continue. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Moses and Professor Moses. Both of them are Moses. And the Commissioner, we took your comments. I didn't see any question for the presenters. The only thing I will talk about is my friend here. Uganda Bureau of Statistics, being a national office, it produces data that is comparable worldwide. And we base on international best practices or international standards. So the Washington Group sets up the criteria, but also recognize our national policy. That's why in the report, the main report, we presented the international standard on disability and then the national. I would have thought even the disability report monograph did the same, because you people from Ministry of Gender, Disability Department participated fully. So we would encourage you to again go back and analyze deeper the monograph. But also, since there is data, we can do further analysis of anything we want to do. At the beginning, I told you this is a scratch, but we can do further analysis. Still, on the other aspects of Karamajong children here, beyond being in a floating population, in fact, this one was looking at household population. We can do further analysis and see. We also use census to do additional surveys to answer questions that have not been. You remember census were asking just, is the father alive or such things, but we will not go in deeper into their socio-economic characteristics, apart from tabulating at household level. So it census, that's the goodness of census, generates debate and further studies, research, academia. I can see Professor Banga here. Now it is back to them to utilize the data, and where the data doesn't answer, the Bureau conducts surveys to address those issues. I think that's the general challenges that David talked about, and UBC, the commissioner talked about them very well, and they are here to answer. For us, we have given statistics. Now, policy issues, he's here. Academic issues, they are all here. For us, as he has told you, the professor will give you facts out there, and then you go and do your things. With these remarks, I would like to take this singular honor to request the PS to do two things. One, to give his remarks as a PS, and also, when he finishes, to switch quickly the courts and become the minister, and launches the report. So my friend Agre, over to you.
The chairperson, board of UBOS, who is represented by Dr. Kabagenyi, the ED of UBOS, and I liked the MC's reference to you as chief statistician for the country, distinguished colleagues from government ministries, departments, agencies. We have our partners here, the development partners, civil society, private sector representatives, representatives of the academia. Ago, fighting that government restores allowances, students' allowances. So you can imagine how far we've come with Professor Lubali, and I'm happy to see him here, as well as all the other dons. members of the Fourth Estate, the media, all of you distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor for me to join you on what is undoubtedly a very important event of launching the Orphans and Other Vulnerable Children OVC Monograph Volume 4, which is derived from the 2024 Population and Housing Census. This morning, up to yesterday evening, I wasn't even very certain that I would be able to join you. But when I got an opportunity, I grabbed it and did confirm very late that because of the importance of what we are gathered here for this morning or afternoon now, I felt that I would give it priority attention. I bring apologies from the ministers, not only my own minister or ministers, because we did discuss and we had agreed that it is very important for the political leaders in the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development to be here in person. But the senior minister has been out of the country. She must be on her way back, attending the Commission on the Status of Women in New York. The minister responsible for Youth and Children Affairs, who had also wanted to be here, together with all the others, were invited yesterday for a special meeting of cabinet this morning. So that is why there is completely none of the political leaders that were expected. But in their absence, I've been afforded an opportunity to put on those shoes. And Dr. Mkiza, you had better be careful, because we are now in transition and they are looking for people they are looking for people who can ably fill those shoes. So don't dare me too much. But having said that, allow me at the very outset to convey our deep appreciation to the board, to the ED, the entire team at UBOS for your outstanding leadership and technical excellence in producing this monograph. This work reflects not only statistical rigor, but also a strong national commitment to evidence-informed decision-making. I want to appreciate the contributions that have been made from the floor. Most importantly, because all those contributions served a very important purpose of validating this report. So I want to appreciate all of you that have made contributions. But as a ministry, we equally commend UBOS for the successful conduct, first of all, of the 2024 census, and for continuing to generate high-quality, policy-relevant data, including the recent report on the extent and the nature of multidimensional child poverty and deprivation of 2024. These outputs significantly strengthen Uganda's capacity to plan, to prioritize, and to deliver impactful services. Ladies and gentlemen, this monograph comes at a time when Uganda has embraced a progressive policy shift in the understanding of child vulnerability. While the Orphans and Other Vulnerable Children policy of 2004 provided a strong foundation for targeting children in greatest need, the National Child Policy of 2020 broadened this perspective by recognizing that all children are inherently vulnerable and require comprehensive protection and support. Even within this broader policy framework, our social protection and child welfare programs continue to target children facing the most severe vulnerabilities. And to this extent, we will eagerly await Professor Lubale's paper, policy paper he has promised on the most severe of these vulnerabilities, including street connected children, orphans, children living with HIV, those in institutional care, refugees and displaced children, children-headed households, and children with disabilities, not for any Ugandan parents who are encountering significant challenges in providing adequate care and protection for their children, often as a result of poverty, limited access to resources, and insufficient awareness of child rights. These challenges are increasing the risk of vulnerabilities such as child marriage, teenage pregnancy, and neglect, underscoring the urgent need for targeted support and intervention. The OVC monograph is therefore exceptionally relevant as it provides the granularity of data that is required to guide targeting, prioritization, and equitable service delivery within the broader policy context. This publication will provide critical insights into the status of children across the 4 fundamental dimensions of their rights. And these have been mentioned by Moses of UNICEF. Those dimensions include survival, development, protection, and participation. It also enables us to assess our performance against national, regional, and international commitments, including the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child, as well as regional frameworks under the East African Community and the Intergovernmental Authority on Development Child Policies. Most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, the monograph is directly aligned to the aspirations of the Human Capital Development Program of the NDP4, where improving the well-being and productivity of Uganda's population begins with investing in children. And that's why my colleague, the Commissioner in charge of Youth and Children Affairs, was giving you assurance that under the Human Capital Development Program, we are working together with a number of ministries, particularly education, which is the lead sector, the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Local Government, Ministry of Water, and so on and so forth. Ladies and gentlemen, the value of this monograph lies in its application. Its findings are highly relevant to national level policy formulation, to subnational planning and budgeting, and frontline service delivery systems. What we are actually now working on under the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development is using this kind of data to inform the development of a social registry that will help us track all these vulnerable persons using the socioeconomic indicators that Dr. Mukiza has been talking about. And in doing this, we are taking advantage of data that has already now been generated, reports that have been published. NIRA has recently also updated the national database, and we are looking at how to strengthen interoperability and use of all this information to target better. For local governments, of course, there is also the PBMIS, under the PDM. You know that data is also being collected up to parish level. And through that PBMIS, the parish-based management information system, we expect that all data we require and all these issues that are coming up will ultimately be addressed by strengthening the whole of government approach in terms of utilization of this data. For local governments in particular, this data provides a clear basis for identifying vulnerable populations, prioritizing interventions, and tracking outcomes. For sectors and partners, it offers the evidence required to make strategic shifts in programming, ensuring that investments yield measurable improvements in child well-being. I wish to underscore that this data is also highly relevant for emerging national priorities, including we are working on establishing or implementing a national child disability grant program. As somebody observed, beyond this data, there are a lot of challenges that are being faced, not only by the children, but also the homes where these children with disabilities are growing. So we are now working, we have been engaging with Ministry of Finance with the support of UNICEF to put in place a special grant that targets those homes where children with disabilities are. At the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development, we have a national grant for persons with disabilities, but this goes to the adults who come together and are able to access funding from government to support them in their work. But when it comes to the children, many families are struggling to raise these children, and we have come to consensus at sector level, but also the debate has gone to Minister of Finance, to Parliament, to set up a special grant for those families or parents that have children with disabilities. As government strengthens inclusive social protection systems, the availability of robust data on children with disabilities and other vulnerable groups will be critical in informing program design, targeting, and delivery mechanisms. The ministry is therefore fully committed to ensuring that the findings from this monograph translate into tangible results. We undertake, therefore, to put in place a comprehensive review, a mechanism for doing a comprehensive review and analysis of this data and all other data that has been generated, to adopt this evidence as a baseline for all ongoing and future child-focused interventions, and implement targeted policy and programmatic reforms to address identified service delivery gaps or challenges. The ministry will also ensure that this evidence informs key policy processes, including the review of the National Social Protection Policy and Strategy and the review of the National Child Policy and its implementation framework. Looking ahead, we are particularly keen to strengthen our collaboration with Uganda Bureau of Statistics in advancing critical national data initiatives in this regard, and working especially with WUBOS on the National Violence Against Children and Gender-Based Violence Survey and the Uganda Disability Survey, among others. These studies will be instrumental in deepening our understanding of child vulnerability and informing more targeted and effective interventions. Let us therefore commit to utilizing this data to strengthen planning improve service delivery, and ultimately transform the lives of Ugandan vulnerable children. When they were presenting this report, there was a lot of useful information that even after this formal launch, we'll be looking at, we'll be working collaboratively with, as I said, our counterparts in the line ministries to see how this information can help improve the programs of government that have been put in place. By looking simply at the numbers of orphans, for example, who are out of school, who have dropped out of school, issues of how the orphans and vulnerable children are affected by the circumstances that they find themselves in. All this information, we are going to take it up. These days, under the leadership of the head of public service, PSCs have been asked to come up with projects where we work together. And we in the human capital development or social development sector have identified the need to work together and strengthen the social development committees at every level within the local governments to ensure improved service delivery. And this report is definitely going to be very handy. One of the things I think somebody raised that may not have been conclusively addressed was the issue of the street children. And I think he did make reference to the fact that a significant portion of these street children are from the Karamoja sub-region. That is a fact. We have conducted studies. We have established that a high percentage of these children, and incidentally come from the part of Karamoja, where the economic activities even permit farming, napak. The biggest percentage of the children that come from Karamoja, who are not only in Kampala, but even in other cities like Mbale, the phenomenon of street children has been growing over the years. And we have recently been working with our partners to come up with a comprehensive strategy that we want to present to Minister of Finance to see how we can deal with this challenge of street children. And the push, of course, there are push and pull factors that we have to address ourselves too. So yes, when these children are picked, we have been using Masulita Children's Village as a transit point. And they are taken there initially as a holding point, but Masulita cannot provide a sustainable solution to the street children phenomenon. So after that, we work with a number of partners and reintegrate them into their communities. But no sooner do you take them than some of them are brought back onto the streets. And there's another big factor of the traffickers, people who benefit by moving these children around, not only within the country, but even beyond the country. So we are working together with all the key stakeholders to see how we can address conclusively the challenge of street children. I think a number of the other issues have been addressed by the colleagues and especially the commissioner who submitted earlier. So ladies and gentlemen, I want to conclude by once again commending the Uganda Bureau of Statistics for this exceptional contribution and call upon us all stakeholders to fully embrace and apply these findings in our respective mandates. I thank you for your kind attention, and as requested, by the ED. I'll now proceed to the final function of the day of commissioning this report and making it available for all of us in our various capacities.
Ladies and gentlemen, a much bigger hand clap than that. The PS has related the entire data with the operating mechanisms of the ministry and the entire government. Let's give him another very big hand clap. And he has stressed the point that the importance of this data actually relies on the usability. And he has called upon all of us to make it usable or use it. So our dear chief guest, once again, we want to thank you for being here and we want to thank you for such a very powerful message. We take it in good faith. I therefore take this moment to warmly and humbly invite you with our acting chairperson of the board, the ED and the DED to the launch of this product that it is now ready for commissioning. Sir, you're welcome. So our chief guest is going to cut a ribbon, and after that he will unveil the report, and then we shall have those very important signatures confirm the use of the report. He has now unveiled the report. No, let us clap. I'm seeing you guys are not clapping. Thank you so much. Let him have a marker so that he can demonstrate what has taken place today to the whole country. You may be in the right position, our dear chief guest. Thank you. Thank you so much. He has put the full detail, including other details and the date. Our chief guest, we thank you so much. The acting chairperson of the board of Uganda Bureau of Statistics, please. It's a very detailed signature, as you may see. Thank you so much, our dear ED and chief statistician. UNICEF professor, please. You can see how professors sign. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right, thank you. Joy for Children, Sai, you are welcome. Thank you so much. Professor. After that, we shall have the Commissioner in charge of Children's Affairs at Ministry of Gender. Thank you. Now we have the Chief Statistician of Uganda. You can watch very clearly to see how that signature is very important. It starts from down going up. I expected to hear a very big hand clap. Thank you. Very good. Thank you, Dr. Mukiza. Thank you so much. And there comes his deputy, Dr. Fred Senono. Thank you so much. Director, Population and Social Statistics, Madam Helen Viri. So you karibu. UNFPA? UNFPA? Okay. There's a white space down. He's the only accredited person to sign on his behalf. Thank you so much. So you write the detail of the organization, UNFPA. We have NIRA representative. Sir, you're welcome. Please append your signature. So we also have copies of the report, and we are going to demonstrate a group photo. I would request that those who have signed only should first take this opportunity with our guest of honor. John, I hope so we can be here. The report with a copy of the report. We are evidence-based, and this is exactly what it means. You can you?
I think they should stand.
Okay. So as you may see, watching on your clock, we are exactly within time, and surely the function is coming to a closure. I will only be guided by the ED, but thank you so much for being present from 10 up to this time. Once again, you are very most welcome. We have lunch that ED will lead the guest of honor and his team in the boardroom, but also there is lunch for other members who are present. So the function has come to closure, and we request you to scan so we have that scanner on the screen, the QR code. Kindly scan it. It will give you some piece of information that you may feel. Don't leave without having lunch. It's already provided. And we have lunch in the boardroom, courtesy of the ED, and is going to take the chief guest. And all those who sign on the report, you are going to be led by our executive director to the lunchroom. But also we have lunch for the rest of the members, so do not go without having lunch. Once again, we thank you for coming, and for keeping time right from the beginning. Thank you.
When I scan that code, I get the soft copy of this.
It is evaluating. Yeah. But we have lunch.
So do you have access to the soft copy?
Yeah, on the website.
On the website?
Yes.
Thank you.